9 апрель, жыйырма пока банкрот эмеспин, не огорчаемся. Просто
Not the trip of my dream. I'm in Italy right now. How did I get here? All my life I've been dreaming about living in the countryside. A small house surrounded by open fields, tall trees, wildflowers. That's how I imagine life when I read 19th century classics. Quiet, simple. One day I got tired of just dreaming about it. I thought, even if I can't live that life yet, I should travel there at least for a little while. My sister at that time also wanted to travel, and I told her, I'll show you the world. She immediately said, let's go to Europe. I agreed, even though I knew it would be expensive. I just decided, enough waiting for something. A month, a year, 2 years, and nothing happens. We spend so much time waiting for someone to come into our lives and change everything. But no one is responsible for your happiness. Don't wait for anything or anyone. You are the one who has to change your life. You are the one who must create moments. Do the things that have been in your mind for so long. So we started planning. To be honest, big cities like Paris or Rome never really attracted me. I wanted the simple Europe, to see it through the eyes of local people, to witness the quiet life. I wanted to visit Tuscany. It was the main place I really wanted to be. But you can't see all of the Europe in a week, can you? This trip was ruined by one person's decision. Someone who's responsible for my sister. That was the moment when everything went wrong. Of course we asked for his permission in advance, and he agreed. But when we had already bought the tickets, he changed his mind out of nowhere. He gave us an ultimatum. Either cancel the trip or he will come with us. Of course we tried to talk him out of those terms, but sometimes you just can't influence someone's decision. I was ready to cancel the whole trip. I wasn't upset about the money I had already spent. What mattered to me was how I would feel during the trip. But I chose my sister. I put her wishes over mine. I chose to compromise for her, because we had already started and I gave her my word. And now I'm here, making my sister's dream come true. You know, people say they'd give their lives for their loved ones. Of course, we are willing to do anything for our loved ones. But when that anything leads to not feeling understood, when neither side is willing to meet the other halfway, and you become distant, then you start to wonder, was it worth it? Maybe we make wrong choices just to choose ourselves in the end. Anxiety. I've been incredibly stressed these last months. I was combining my studies with planning a trip and working at the same time. I was waking up early and going to bed late. I slept 5 hours at night just to get everything done. I couldn't understand how time passes so quickly. Day after day, I was emotionally drained. I had to find and book hotels at a good price, plan the road, and buy flights and bus tickets between the cities. I also had to organize the schedule, figure out where we're gonna stay on which dates and how much time we're gonna spend in each place. And you know, the original plan didn't feel like a vacation. It looked more like a marathon across Europe. We were giving each city just 1 day, sometimes even less. At my sister's request, the main cities became Rome, Milan, Paris, Nice, and Como. But what I really wanted was a slow, peaceful journey. 3 days in Tuscany, 3 days in Nice, and 3 days in Como. In the end, we removed Tuscany from the list. There wasn't enough time, and it was harder to reach compared to the big cities connected by fast trains and flights. So we stayed with the well-known destinations. I agreed to that too. You know that feeling when you don't really care about anything anymore and you just want it all to be over. I already secretly hoped that we won't get the visa, so it could be over faster. At that point, I didn't even care about the money I'd already spent. I just wanted to protect my peace. But they approved our visa. And with that, the unbearable pace of the past few weeks continued. I was planning everything for 5 people, booking accommodations, buying tickets, planning the entire road. All of that responsibility fell on me when I only wanted to take my sister to Europe. Of course, on top of that, they were constantly asking endless questions and giving unnecessary advices. That was it. That's when I told myself, no more. When this trip will be over, I'm getting the hell out of here. I will finally live on my own, just like I've always dreamed. These people are unbearable. I deserve better. These past few days I've been stressed, not just because there's a lot to do, but because of the upcoming days in Europe. I was scared I wouldn't be able to navigate everything and that there would be a lot of conflict. Because at home, I avoid interacting with these people, but on this trip, I won't be able to. I imagined it like falling into a dark hole, unable to take control. But even for that, I had saved up my patience. By the time we were leaving, I honestly didn't care that I was about to see Europe for the first time. Not in dreams, but for real. I didn't feel any excitement or joy. I just couldn't take it for real. There wasn't a proud realization in my head saying, I did it. Instead, there was confusion. How did I even manage this? When I got on the plane, I didn't feel like this is going to be amazing or I'll enjoy exploring new places. No, I got on the plane feeling unsure, not knowing what to expect or how I'd get through it. Fuimicino. So we arrived at Fuimicino airport, and honestly it was the worst airport I ever had experienced. My first airport in Europe, and we couldn't figure out how to get out of it. We followed Google Maps, but it led us the wrong way over and over again. We kept walking in circles through this huge airport. We were exhausted, carrying heavy bags, unable to understand which bus we were supposed to take. We asked everyone, employees, locals, but no one could really help us. Most of them didn't speak English. After about 3 hours, 3 hours wasted, we gave up and took a taxi. Turned out the place we needed to get to was only 5 minutes away by car. We couldn't walk because we had luggage, and so we ended up overpaying for a short ride. I really liked the house. It was well-spaced vintage house with an old-fashioned charm. The furniture was in warm brown shades, and there was a beautiful wooden shelf, its doors covered with delicate lace curtains. I wish I could live there a little longer. It reminds me of the house from Wuthering Heights, where lived the little Catherine Earnshaw, as if their kitchen was right here in this very home, and just beyond the door there should have been wild moors covered in heather. But then I returned to reality, a reality where I was surrounded by the wrong people and my heart didn't feel at peace. It's hard for me to look back, but that's when the first conflicts happened. Of course, I knew there was no way to avoid them. I didn't try to hide how uncomfortable I felt around them. I waited for him to finally stop pretending that everything was fine. And he did. I always knew his true face. A tyrann who expects the world to revolve around him. In his twisted mind, he believes we exist to please him. Never, my dear friends, never agree to a trip with people you don't feel comfortable with. It ruins the beauty of discovering something new. You won't be able to admire anything if you're not okay inside. It's better to explore alone than with the wrong people. Just don't agree to it. I did my best to stay calm and indifferent. We walked along the river and reached the sea. The wind was strong and cool. Our hair got all messy, but that didn't stop us from taking a few pictures. Then we headed back to explore the town itself. Fuimicino is a small, quiet town with interesting architecture. What I really liked about it was its peaceful vibe. It didn't feel crowded at all, just the locals living their quiet lives. we returned to the house, and after dinner, I began planning the next day in Rome. Actually, we were supposed to head to Rome that very day, but since we lost so much time at the airport, we ended up spending the day in this town instead. Rome. We woke up at 6 a.m., had breakfast, got packed up, and said goodbye to the lovely house. Oh, by the way, it was self-check-in. Since I booked it online and hadn't paid yet, the host simply asked us to leave the cash somewhere visible in the house. So I left the money on the bedside table. My sister and I were also running around trying to break a €5 note. Then we went to the bus stop, where we met two Italian girls. They said they were also waiting for the same bus which would take us to the metro station and they'd show us the way. But they mentioned that today might be a holiday and buses could be off. Now that I'm googling it, it was April 1st, a Sunday. Turns out it was Easter for Catholics. Luckily, the bus did arrive and we rode together with the girls. As we passed through the quiet countryside, the views took my breath away. Wide green fields, just like the ones I had dreamed of, like in Tuscany. I was so happy to see them. One of the girls was incredibly kind and sweet. She really tried to help us. When we arrived at the metro station, since they weren't going to Rome themselves, she walked me to the right direction. I thanked them and we said goodbye. The metro was quite fine. We got off at the Colesio station and took our suitcases to a nearby luggage storage place. Then we came back to the Colosseum, our very first destination. Aijan had marked a bunch of must-visit places on her map. To get a picture with the Colosseum in the background, we walked a bit away and climbed some stairs. There was a huge crowd up there, so we barely managed to take a few pictures. Just beyond the Colosseum were ancient arcs and the famous Palatine Hill. The entrance required a ticket, but going in would have taken a lot of time and we had about 6 or 7 places to see that day, so we didn't buy any tickets and just explored around the outside. Then we made our way to Piazza del Campidoglio. Everything around was beautiful, though it started to rain a little. After that, we walked to a church of the Gesù. It's known for having a big mirror on the floor that lets you see its stunning ceiling. Sadly, it was closed when we arrived, but someone told us it might open around 4 p.m. So we decided to come back later and moved on to explore the other places. The next stop was the Pantheon, which is also a church. To be honest, it felt like the entire city of Rome had shown up here. I mean, I wouldn't say the building is incredibly beautiful, so the crowd was a bit surprising. And finally, we arrived at the long-awaited Trevi Fountain. It was just as majestic as I imagined while scrolling through Pinterest. That's when it finally hit me. This was real. I was actually standing in front of the very same fountain I once saved on Pinterest, thinking it was some kind of dreamlike place. We took some pictures. Aijan threw a coin into a fountain and made a wish. I also saw a couple throwing a coin together and then they kissed. Quite romantic. And then it started to rain. Luckily, we had umbrellas. We walked to our final stop, the Spanish Steps. After the Spanish Steps, the others wanted to eat, so we stopped at a small cafe and ordered pizza and pasta. As we waited, I just sat there watching the people around me. At the next table, there was a family enjoying their meal, chatting and laughing. I kept thinking how present they looked. No heaviness in their eyes, no stress, no sadness. Meanwhile, inside me, I was feeling completely different. It seemed like everything was fine for them and nothing was fine for me. Knowing that you're not okay is one thing, but seeing the others are fine, that's something else. Then we returned to the church that was supposed to open at 4 p.m. I really liked Rome. Despite the crowds, the city felt calm and peaceful. I saw many elderly couples holding hands even after so many years. When it hit 4, nothing happened. We tried to open the door, but it was still locked. Then we asked the man who was sitting outside the church. He told us it was Easter and that the church probably wouldn't open today because of the holiday. We accepted and decided to head home. We came back for our bags and headed to the metro. Since the metro wasn't underground, we could enjoy some really nice views outside the window. Passing through quiet little towns, we eventually arrived back in Fuimicino. We picked up the keys at the reception, caught a beautiful sunset on our way, and arrived at the apartment. It was a good day. I barely felt tired, or maybe I just forgot about it because of the beauty of the city and the warmth of the people I saw along the way. Paris. We flew to Paris and landed around 10 in the morning. From the airport, we needed to take a few transfers to get to our first destination, but of course that didn't go well with one person. Let's call him the detestant. We got stuck with his, I don't want to take transfers, let's rent a car. Where are you supposed to get a car right now? Out of air, out of nowhere? Sure. He thinks we fly to Paris every day and have all the time in the world to see the whole city twice over again. Long story short, we wasted time, couldn't find a car or taxi, and finally just took the bus like I originally planned. The Detestant, a character who's a family member I couldn't completely cut off. Spiritually, I had completely cut him off long time ago, but in practice, I had to put up with his company because my sister, who are important to me, depends on him, even though I'm independent of him myself. At 12:30, we arrived with our suitcases at the first destination, the Luxembourg Gardens. Since check-in at the house was only after lunch. The park was very beautiful, but unfortunately the weather was windy. There was an incredibly beautiful building in the park, and for a moment I imagined this place as an estate where high society gathers and holds balls. It felt as if a carriage would arrive any moment and a noble lady in a 19th century outfit would step out. Afterwards, we went to the house. It was located in a cheaper part of the city, which was clearly different from the center with its big beige buildings. Also, there was an unpleasant smell in the area and in metro. Later, I realized it was special smell. If you know, you know. After having a snack and leaving our things at the house, we headed to the Louvre. The center of the city seemed more civilized somehow. Overall, we saw two sides of Paris. The wealthy part, where you could feel the big city, and the poorer part, where people were just surviving. We took pictures in front of the Louvre. It was raining and we had lost our umbrellas in Rome. By then it was already around 7 p.m. Walking along the river, we made our way to the Eiffel Tower. After walking along the river for a while, we turned into the country yards and continued through the streets.
Hello guys, we are in Paris now and we already talked a lot in English with local people, so we are now professionals.
неге бара тұрғаным? Эйфел Тауэр. Атып қаламсың ғой.
Париж аппақ фон Франция аппақ зданиялармен. Италия
Дома
зданиялармен.
The tall buildings made it impossible to see the tower. We walked for so long that my legs were aching badly. I barely made it to the tower and was more exhausted than I had ever been in Rome. And this was my face when we couldn't even see the tip of the tower from afar, but then suddenly found ourselves right under it. We walked 5 kilometers for this view. As we got closer, it was already dark, around 8 p.m., and then the tower lit up. My sister mentioned it would only last 5 minutes and went off to make content. I decided to not waste the moment and tried to capture the beauty myself.
Toha, nauksuz kaldın.
Then I went to find my sister.
Video mu?
Yeah.
When I found them, the sparkling lights on the tower turned on. It turns out these lights only shine for 5 minutes while the tower itself stays illuminated all nights after sunset. We took pictures with the sparkling lights and called a taxi since it was already 9 p.m. Paris didn't leave a strong impression on me like Rome did. In Rome you could feel the kindness of people. Paris, on the other hand, felt massive and detached. Nobody notices you and nobody pays attention to you. You don't feel any connection with the locals.